Captain Vexstar stood alone in the control room of the great ship Last Hope. Through the thick glass windows, she could see nothing but black space filled with tiny stars. The stars looked pretty, but they were so far away that they gave no warmth, no comfort, just cold light from places her people would never reach. The ship was huge, bigger than any building on their old home planet. It had to be big, because it carried the last of the Zalari people. Only 3,000 of them were left now. Once, long ago, there had been billions of Zalari living on many different worlds. They had built great cities, created beautiful art, and explored the galaxy with joy and wonder. But that was before their son died. Vexstar remembered the day their scientists told everyone the terrible news. Their home star was getting old and would soon collapse. They had maybe 50 years to save themselves. Some Zalari had already moved to other planets, but when the home sun died, it sent out waves of deadly energy that killed everything nearby. Their other worlds were too close. The colonies died one by one. Only this ship had been far enough away to survive. "Captain," said Morden from his chair near the big communication machine. His voice sounded tired, like he had been working for days without sleep. "I finished checking all the radio signals again. There is nothing out there, no messages from other smart beings, just the same empty noise from space." Vexter nodded but said nothing. For 3,000 years, they had been flying through space, looking for someone else like them. 3,000 years of sending out messages that said, "Hello, we are here. Please answer us." 3,000 years of hoping that somewhere in all those millions of stars, someone would hear them and call back. But space stayed quiet. The ship's computer, which was very old and very smart, had done the math many times. They had enough food, water, and air for about 50 more years. Maybe 60, if they were very careful. After that, the last Zalari would die, and their people would be gone forever. "Captain," said another voice. This was Telvis, who was in charge of watching the ship's machines. "The power systems are working fine, but they are getting old. The air makers are still good, but they need more repairs each month. And the water, cleaners, ... "I know," Vexter said quietly. "How long do we have before something important breaks?" Telvis looked at his numbers. "Hard to say, Captain. Maybe 10 years before we have real problems. Maybe 20 if we are lucky." Vexter walked to the big window again. She pressed her long, thin hand against the cold glass. Outside, a red star glowed in the distance. It looked angry and dead. They had checked that star system last year. No planets, no life, no one to talk to. Behind her, she could hear the soft sounds of her crew working. Morden was still listening to space, hoping to hear something new. Telvis was checking more numbers on his machines. Other crew members walked through the halls, doing their jobs, but she could see the sadness in their eyes. Many of her people had started talking about giving up. They said it might be better to just stop the ship's engines and let the cold take them peacefully. At least then their suffering would end. "Why do we keep trying, Captain?" asked young Kevron, who was learning to be a pilot. "We have looked everywhere. We have sent messages to every star we can see. If there were others out there, wouldn't we have found them by now?" Vextar turned to look at him. Kevron was still young for a Zalari, only about 200 years old. He had been born on the ship and had never seen a real planet or breathed natural air. "Because," Vextar said slowly, "our old stories tell us that the universe is big beyond understanding. Bigger than we can imagine. In all that bigness, there must be others. There must be someone else who looks at the stars and wonders if they are alone." "But Captain," Kevron said, "what if the stories are wrong? What if we really are the only ones?" Vextar did not answer right away. She had asked herself the same question many times, especially late at night when she could not sleep. What if they were alone? What if all their searching was for nothing? Then, she finally said, "We keep looking anyway, because hope is all We have left. The bridge became quiet again. Everyone went back to their work, but Vexstar could feel their sadness. She understood it. Sometimes she felt like giving up too. Sometimes she wanted to just sit down and cry for everything they had lost. But she was the captain. Her people needed her to be strong. She walked back to her command chair and sat down. Morden, she said, keep listening. Check every signal, even the weak ones. Yes, Captain, Morden replied, though his voice showed he did not expect to. Find anything. Telvas, make sure all our message transmitters are working. Keep sending our greeting signal to every star system we pass. Of course, Captain. Vexstar looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, maybe someone was looking back. Maybe someone else was alone and scared and hoping for a friend. She would not give up. Not yet. 3 months had passed since Captain Vexstar gave her orders to keep searching. The ship Last Hope moved slowly through space, checking each star system they found. Most systems had no planets at all. The few planets they did find were either too hot, too cold, or covered in poisonous gas. No life anywhere. Morden sat at his communication station, like always, listening to the sounds of empty space. He had been doing this job for 50 years now, and every day was the same. Static noise, radiation from distant stars, and the low hum of cosmic background energy. Never anything that sounded like it came from intelligent beings. He was getting ready to move to the next frequency when something made him stop. There was a sound mixed in with the static. It was very faint, but it was different from the usual space noise. Wait, he whispered to himself, adjusting his equipment. What is that? The sound came and went, like waves on a beach. It had a pattern to it, almost like music, but not quite. Morden felt his heart beating faster. He had heard natural radio signals from planets before, lightning storms, magnetic fields, that sort of thing. But this was different. This sounded ... organized. Captain, he called out, his voice shaking with excitement. Captain, please come here quickly. Vexstar was in her ready room, looking at star charts and trying to plan their next route. When she heard the excitement in Morden's voice, she ran to the bridge faster than she had moved in years. What is it? She asked. Listen, Morden said, turning up the volume on his speakers. At first Vexstar heard only the usual cosmic static. Then she heard it too, a faint but clearly artificial signal, hidden in the noise. It pulsed in regular patterns, started and stopped at specific times, and carried information in a way that natural phenomena never could. Where is it coming from? She asked, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. Morden worked quickly, at his controls, running the signal through the ship's analysis computers. The third planet in this system, Captain, the yellow star we entered orbit around yesterday. Telvas looked up from his science station. Captain, I'm getting readings from that planet. It has water, breathable atmosphere, and life signs. Lots of them. Intelligent life? Vexstar asked. The signals suggest yes, Telvas said, studying his data. But Captain, their technology is very basic. These radio waves are primitive compared to our systems. They're barely more advanced than we were 5,000 years ago. Vexstar stared at the speakers as more signals came through. Now that they knew what to listen for, they could hear dozens of different transmissions from the planet. Some sounded like voices talking, others like music, others like streams of data being sent back and forth. Can you understand any of it? She asked. Morden shook his head. Not yet, Captain. But our computers are already starting to find patterns in their language. Give me a few hours and I might be able to figure out some basic words. What do they call themselves? Vexstar asked. From what I can tell so far, Morden said, they call themselves humans. For the next several hours, the entire crew gathered around the communication station, listening to the human transmissions with wonder. The humans seemed to talk constantly, sending signals all around their planet and even out into space. Some of the signals were clearly meant for communication between humans, but others seemed to be sent into the void with no specific target. "Captain," said young Kevrin, "why would they send messages into empty space? Are they trying to talk to someone?" Telvis had been studying the signals more carefully. "I think they are. Kevron, look at this transmission here. It's not going to any other humans. It's being broadcast in all directions, like they're hoping someone out there will hear it. Just like we do," Vextar said quietly. "Exactly like we do, Captain." As the ship's computers worked to decode more of the human language, they began to understand pieces of what the humans were saying. The humans had names for everything. Their planet was called Earth, their star was called Sol, and they had divided their world into many different groups and nations. But what amazed the Zalari most was the content of the messages being sent into space. The humans weren't just sending random noise. They were sharing their music, their mathematics, their art, and simple messages that said things like "Hello" and "Is anyone out there?" In many different human languages. "They're looking for us," Morden said in amazement. "They don't know we exist, but they're hoping we do." "Captain," Telvis said, studying more data about the human planet. "These beings are very young as a species. They've only had radio technology for about 100 of their years. They haven't even left their planet yet, except for very short trips. But they're reaching out anyway," Vextar said. "Even though they're alone, even though they have no proof that anyone is listening, they keep sending messages to the stars." She listened to another human transmission. This one was music, something soft and beautiful that somehow made her feel less sad than she had in years. Captain Kavran asked, "Should we try to answer them?" Vextar was quiet for a long moment. These humans were so young, so primitive compared to the Zalari. What could such simple beings offer to a people who had traveled the galaxy for thousands of years? But then she remembered something. These humans were doing exactly what the Zalari had been doing, hoping, reaching out, refusing to believe they were alone in the universe. Despite having no evidence that anyone was listening, they kept trying. "Yes," she said finally, "we answer them." The next morning, Captain Vextar called all her senior officers to the bridge. They had spent the whole night listening to human transmissions and trying to understand more of their language. The ship's computers had learned many basic human words, but communication would still be very difficult. "We need to be careful," Vextar told her crew. "These humans have never met aliens before. If we frighten them, they might stop trying to communicate with us." Morden had prepared a simple message using mathematics and basic science, things that should be the same everywhere in the universe. Numbers, simple addition, the structure of atoms, and basic physics. If the humans were smart enough to build radios, they should understand these concepts. "Send it," Vextar ordered. The message went out from their ship toward the small blue planet. Radio waves traveled at the speed of light, so it would take several minutes to reach Earth and several more minutes for any response to come back. The crew waited quietly, watching the communication equipment. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. "Maybe they didn't hear it," Kevrin suggested. "Or maybe they're scared," said Tel single quotes VAs. Then, suddenly, the speakers crackled with a new transmission. It was definitely coming from Earth, and it was much stronger than the random signals they had been hearing before. Someone down there was trying very hard to send them a message. The signal started with the same mathematical sequence the Zalari had sent, proving that the humans understood it. Then came new numbers, showing that the humans could do more complex math. After that came what sounded like excited human voices talking very fast. "Captain," Morden said, working frantically to decode the transmission, "they're trying to talk to us directly. The computer is picking up repeated words. I think they're saying hello and asking us to respond. Can you understand? Anything else? Some of it, Captain? They keep saying something that sounds like we hear you," and wait. Morden listened more carefully. Captain, I think one of them just said you are not alone. The words hit Vexstar like a physical blow. In Zelari culture, telling someone you are not alone was something you only said to people who were dying or in terrible pain. It was the deepest form of comfort their language had. How could these humans, who didn't even know Zelari customs, choose exactly the right words? Who is speaking? She asked. It sounds like one human, a female voice. The computer thinks she's saying her name is Kim Ji-won. She seems to be some kind of scientist. For the next hour, they exchanged simple messages back and forth. The humans sent more mathematics, then basic pictures made from radio signals. The Zelari responded with their own pictures. Slowly, they began to understand each other better. Then more human voices joined the conversation. The humans seemed to be calling friends from all over their planet to help talk to the aliens. Park Min-ho, who seemed to understand radio equipment very well. Lee Subane, who was trying to help with languages, and many others, each bringing their own skills to try to communicate with the visitors from space. Captain, Morden said with wonder in his voice, they're not scared of us at all. Listen to this. He played a recording of the latest human transmission. Even though the Zelari couldn't understand all the words, they could hear the excitement and joy in the human voices. These people weren't afraid, they were celebrating. They've been hoping for this their whole lives, Telvas observed. Just like we have. As the day went on, the communications got better. The humans were very good at learning, and they seemed to work together in a way that impressed the Zelari. When one human couldn't solve a problem, others would help. They shared their knowledge freely and worked day and night to improve their ability to talk with the aliens. By evening, they were exchanging simple sentences. Dr. Kim Ji-won had learned to say hello. Friends from the stars, in broken but understandable. In return, Vexstar had learned to say greetings from the ship Last Hope, in basic human language. But what amazed the Zelari most was what the humans wanted to share. They weren't asking for advanced technology or weapons. Instead, they sent music, art, pictures of their planet, and stories about their lives. They wanted to show the Zelari who they were as people. Listen to this, Morden said, playing a piece of human music that had just been transmitted to them. The music was unlike anything the Zelari had heard before. It was full of energy and hope, with sounds that seemed to rise up like birds taking flight. As the melody played, Vexstar saw her crew members sitting up straighter, their eyes brighter than they had been in years. They made this for us, she realized. They created new music just to welcome us. Young Kevron was staring at the communication equipment with tears in his eyes. Captain, they really want to be our friends, don't they? Yes, Vexstar said, softly. I think they do. That night, as the ship continued its slow orbit around Earth, the Zelari listened to more human transmissions. Stories, songs, messages of friendship, and simple questions about life among the stars. The humans wanted to know everything, what the Zelari looked like, where they came from, how they lived, what they had seen in their travels. But most of all, they kept repeating the same message. Welcome, you are not alone anymore. We are here. For the first time in 3,000 years, the bridge of the Last Hope was filled not with sadness, but with hope. 2 weeks had passed since first contact with the humans. The bridge of the Last Hope had become a busy place as Zelari crew members worked day and night to improve communication with their new friends on Earth. The humans were learning Zelari words very quickly, and the Zelari were getting better at understanding human speech. Dr. Kim Gi-won had become the main person. The humans used to talk with the aliens. She worked at a place called Seoul National University and seemed to never sleep. Every few hours, she would send new messages to the ship, asking questions about Zelari science and culture. Captain Morden said one morning, "The humans want to know more about our situation. Dr. Kim is asking why we are traveling through space, instead of living on a planet. Vextar thought carefully. They had told the humans some basic facts about themselves, but they had not explained that the Zellari were dying. She worried that such terrible news might frighten their new friends away. Tell her the truth, Vextar decided. If we are going to be friends, they should know who we really are. So Morden explained everything. He told Dr. Kim about how the Zellari's son had died, how their colonies had been destroyed, and how only 3,000 of them were left alive on this one ship. He explained about their failing life support systems and how they only had maybe 50 years before the ship could no longer keep them alive. The response from Earth was immediate and powerful. "No," came Dr. Kim's voice over the radio, speaking in careful but clear Zellari. "No, this cannot happen. You are our friends now. We will not let you die." Within hours, humans all over Earth were working on the Zellari's problem. Scientists, engineers, students, and even children were thinking about ways to help. They asked for detailed information about the ship's systems, how the life support worked, and what parts were breaking down. Captain Telvis reported, "They want to see our technical drawings. Should we send them?" "Yes," Vextar said. "Send them everything they ask for." The humans studied the Zellari technology with amazing speed. Even though their own technology was much simpler, they seemed to understand the basic principles very quickly. More importantly, they approached problems in ways that the Zellari had never considered. "We think too much like engineers," observed Telvis, after reading some human suggestions. "We try to fix things the way we always have. But the humans think like ... like artists. They see possibilities we miss." The breakthrough came from the most unexpected source possible. Park Min-ho, the radio engineer from Busan, had been working with a group of human scientists to understand the Zellari gravity generators. These machines created artificial gravity on the ship and also helped process the air that everyone breathed. The problem was that the generators were very old and becoming less efficient every year. One day, Park Min-ho brought his 12-year-old son Hyok to the radio station to see him talking with the aliens. The boy listened quietly as his father and the other scientists discussed the complex problems with the Zellari ship. "Dad," Hyok said during a break in the conversation, "why don't they just run the gravity field backwards through the air machines?" The adults looked at him with confusion. "What do you mean, son?" Park Min-ho asked. "Well," Hyok said, "if the gravity machine pushes down on things, and the air machine pulls dirty air in and pushes clean air out, what would happen if you used the gravity push to help the air machine work, like using a fan to blow air through a filter?" Park Min-ho stared at his son. Then he turned to the other scientists. Could that actually work? They spent the next 6 hours doing calculations and checking the idea with Zellari engineers. What young Hyok had suggested was so simple that no one had ever thought of it before. By running the gravity field in reverse through certain parts of the life support system, they could make the air processors work much more efficiently. "Captain," Telvis announced excitedly, "if this works, it could extend our life support by hundreds of years instead of decades." The Zellari engineers worked frantically to test the human boy's idea. They built small prototypes first, then larger ones. Each test worked better than the last. Finally, they were ready to modify the main life support systems. "Begin the modifications," Vextar ordered. For 3 days, the ship's engineering teams worked around the clock. The humans sent constant encouragement and suggestions. Dr. Kim Ji-won barely slept as she coordinated between human scientists and Zellari engineers. On the 4th day, they turned on the modified system. It worked perfectly, Captain Telvis reported, with tears in his eyes. "The system is running at 140% efficiency. At this rate, our life support could last for over 800 years. But the humans weren't finished helping. Lee Subin, the linguistics professor, had been working with other humans to create something special for their alien friends. She called it a gift of welcome. Captain Vexstar came, her voice over the radio. We have made something for you. It is not technology or science. It is ... how do you say? Art from the heart. What followed was the most beautiful thing the Zalari had ever heard. Hundreds of human voices singing together in harmony, performing a song they had written just for the Zalari. The words were in both human languages and Zalari, telling a story about friendship across the stars and promising that no one would ever be alone again. As the song played through the ship's speakers, Zalari throughout the vessel stopped what they were doing to listen. Many were crying, not from sadness, but from a feeling they had almost forgotten. Joy. Captain, young Kevron said, I want to learn to make music like that. Vexter smiled. Then we will ask our human friends to teach us. 1 year had passed since the Zalari first heard human voices from the small blue planet. The last hope was no longer drifting aimlessly through space. Instead, it was flying with purpose toward Earth, where thousands of new friends were waiting to meet them. Captain Vexstar stood at her usual place by the bridge windows, but everything had changed. The ship hummed with new energy. The modified life support systems worked so well that the air smelled fresher than it had in decades. The lights were brighter, and most importantly, her people were happy again. Captain Morden called from his communication station. We're getting a message from Dr. Kim Giwan. Put it through, Vexstar said. Dr. Kim's voice came over the speakers, speaking fluent Zalari now. Good morning, Captain Vexstar. I have exciting news to report. This week, we detected signals from 17 new civilizations. The network is growing faster than we ever imagined. Vexstar smiled. This was the best part of their friendship with humanity. The humans had not been content to simply help the Zalari survive. They had bigger dreams than that. After learning about the Zalari's long search for other intelligent life, the humans had started their own project. They began broadcasting powerful signals into space, not just to communicate with the Zalari, but to reach out to anyone else who might be listening. Their message was simple. This is Earth. We are here. If you are lost, if you are alone, if you need help, we will find a way. The results had been amazing. First, the crystalline beings, called the Shardik, had responded from the edge of the galaxy. They had been alone for 2,000 years, thinking their species was the last intelligent life in the universe. When they heard the human broadcasts, they had wept tears of joy that turned into beautiful singing crystals. Then came the Corvani, from another galaxy entirely. They were explorers, like the Zalari, but their ship had been damaged in a cosmic storm. The humans had helped coordinate a rescue mission, with the Zalari sharing their advanced engineering knowledge to help repair the Corvani vessel. Next were the aquatic Veltari, who lived in the oceans of distant water worlds. They had developed radio technology, but had never thought to look for life on dry land planets. The humans taught them how to communicate across space, opening up whole new possibilities for their civilization. How many different species are we talking to now? Vexstar asked. 43 confirmed civilizations, Captain, Dr. Kim replied. And we get new signals every week. It's like the galaxy was full of people who were all alone, just waiting for someone to say hello. Telvas looked up from his science station. Captain, I'm getting a direct transmission from Earth. It's young Hayok, the 12-year-old boy who had helped save their ship, had become something of a celebrity among both humans and aliens. His simple solution to their life support problem had made him famous across multiple worlds. More importantly, he had become friends with many young Zalari on the ship. Hello, Captain Vexstar, came Hayok's cheerful voice. Dad says you'll be here in time for my 13th birthday party next month. Will you really teach me how engineering works? It would be my honor, young friend, Vexstar replied, and I hope you can teach me more about human creativity. Your people have shown us new ways to think about old problems. Oh, and Captain, Hayok added excitedly, we got a message from some new aliens yesterday. They call themselves the Thine, and they're really good at growing food. They want to share their farming techniques with everyone in the network. Mom says we're going to have the biggest interspecies feast in galactic history when you get here. After the transmission ended, Vexter walked through the corridors of her ship. Everywhere she looked, she saw changes that the humans had inspired. Salari children were learning human languages and drawing pictures of their new friends. Adult Zelari were composing music in human styles and sharing it with their alien network. Scientists were working on joint projects with researchers from dozens of different worlds. Most importantly, her people had hope again. "Captain," said young Kavran, who was now training to be a diplomat for interspecies relations, "do you think we'll ever stop discovering new civilizations?" "I hope not," Vexter replied. "The humans have taught us that the universe is much more crowded than we thought. We just weren't listening in the right way." That evening, Vexter returned to the bridge for the daily communication session with Earth and their growing network of alien friends. As she listened to the dozens of different voices, speaking dozens of different languages, all working together to solve problems and share discoveries, she marveled at how much had changed. A year ago, they had been dying alone in the darkness, convinced they were the last intelligent beings in a cold, empty universe. Now they were part of something beautiful, a community of species that spanned the galaxy, all connected by the simple human idea that no one should have to face the darkness alone. "Captain," Morden said, "Earth is requesting our daily status report." "Tell them," Vextar said, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed cold and distant. "Tell them we're not alone anymore. Tell them we're coming home." As the last hope continued its journey toward the small blue planet that had changed everything, the galaxy itself seemed to pulse with new life and new connections. The age of cosmic loneliness was over, ended by the simple words that had become the motto of their growing interstellar family. "We're here. You are not alone."